On this edition of the program, we profile one young leader across 2 continents. Dr. Sanusi Ohiare is a rural energy specialist and an executive director at Nigeria's Rural Electrification Agency. At the age of 32, Sanusi is holding a key leadership position in an agency responsible for providing energy to 95 million Nigerians living off the power grid in rural communities across the nation. He takes us through his groundbreaking journey in a country known for low rates of youth participation in governance. With a flag firmly in hand, this young rural energy technocrat shared his enthusiasm with us in the capital of the United States. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Here with us on the program is an exceptional young African leader, Dr. Sanusi Ohiare, an executive director with the Rural Electrification Agency and a Mandela Washington Fellow. You're very welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
I was actually present at your commissioning as an executive director with the Rural Electrification Agency. And what immediately struck me was that in the presence of all of these very senior people, people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, I think there was even one in the 70s there, here's this young man in this elite leadership position. And you symbolize something, and I want to ask you about that. As a young leader leading in an administrative level, can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you have seen and that you wish to address where you are?
For someone coming from a very technical background and now going into management and administration, I think that the transition itself is a challenge, because as a technical person that has worked in private sector with international organizations, the emphasis is on getting things done and moving quickly. So if you come with that kind of character and attitude to government, and you just want to go about getting things done as quickly as possible, then you immediately experience some sort of challenge because the people are not used to that. So I think that's the major challenge I've had. But I also think it's a learning process for me, because at this level, I'm just getting into this level. So it gives me an opportunity to also know how to relate more with people, especially older people, and how to sort of galvanize them to action and get things that we need to do, because we have an agenda from the government, from the president. We need to deliver electricity to 95 million people that don't have access. We do not have time. We're in a hurry to get things done, but we also need to see how we can carry the people along and make sure that they key into the vision, and then we get things done.
You represent something that is incredibly rare in the Nigerian context, and that is a young man in his 30s operating at that level of official leadership. And we know that in Nigeria, one of the major challenges that has been kind of well discussed and well known is the issue of corruption, particularly in the power sector. And as a young leader coming in, how important is it to you individually that you're not only bringing in the kind of academic background and the technical knowledge and know-how, but also the moral leadership to say that things have to be done properly this time around? By your actions,
I mean, when you get there, people already know, by virtue of being appointed into this sort of position, and I also have a fantastic managing director who comes with a lot of credibility. It has already changed a lot of things just by virtue of that appointment. So people know it's not going to be business as usual. But we don't go there talking, just saying, oh, you have to do this. We know what we need to do, because we need to put regulations in place, policies in place, and for the organization as well, we're doing needs assessment to see where the loopholes that allow for this sort of corruption, we are blocking it, So it's more of action, we know the issues. So we're down there right now, and then we are just putting things in place to make sure that things move smoothly.
There's a gap between the urban population and the rural population. And when you see a rural child who may be just as brilliant as a president's child or a governor's child or a senator's child, but simply doesn't have access to the light to be able to study. I know you've heard those stories.
Yeah.
How does that shape you? How does that shape your mindset in terms of the work that you do?
Honestly, it breaks my heart anytime because like I said, I grew up in a rural area, and there was a day when I grew up, I was traveling with my dad. We were passing through a very rural area, and then my dad just shook his head and said, "What if I gave birth to you guys, and then you remained here up till this level? What would you do?" I'm like, "We would never know any life outside what we know." But the truth is, for us we've been privileged enough to see life outside Nigeria and see how things are being done. It's really heartbreaking, because the onus is on us to provide at least that kind of opportunity and life, for people that don't have access. So that's why we are really working hard, because the way we were deploying our resources to provide electricity in the past was not really, the efficient way to do it. We're just extending the grid. So yeah, you get access to infrastructure, but you do not have access to energy flowing through.
We know that Nigeria has one of the largest populations in the world of young people. Many young people some of them even have PhDs like yourself and don't have a job. What would you say to them, to the young people in Nigeria, whether they've had an opportunity to go to school or they haven't had an opportunity to go to school? What would you say to them, given your very unique example and your unique situation as an operational leader in the country at a young age?
Well, I would only speak based on my experience, and I like to share my experience with young people. I like to tell them the choices you make, the kind of life you live would inform the choices you also make would eventually inform what you become. You have to be passionate about something. Education is very important, but you also have to carve a niche for yourself. You don't follow the bandwagon, and if you're studying something, it should be something that resonates with you. Mm-hmm. So that way you're not looking at, I want to study. I had the opportunity to study something in oil and gas, for instance, because that's where a lot of people went into, because there was a lot of money. I had the opportunity to work anywhere, I wanted to work. But I carefully chose what I wanted based on passion. Mm-hmm. So for instance, I studied economics. When I was in high school, my dad wanted me to be an engineer. So he wanted me to study sciences in secondary school. But after first term, I wasn't doing as much as I expected. I went and I changed to social sciences. So he said, "You need to go back to sciences." And I said, "No, this is what I want." So I made that choice at that time. Mm-hmm. And then I went on to study economics. I did my master's in energy finance. And then at the PhD level, I went for what I was passionate about, rural energy development. Nobody was really concerned at that level, to do a PhD there. But I did it because I was passionate about it. So it's important, to be passionate. So young people should also own their destiny and, chart their course. And they should not belittle themselves. Mm-hmm. If you know you can deliver at a certain level, put yourself out there, go out and say that I can do this job. Do not imagine that it's only a certain age band or demographic that can do a particular job. If you're sure you can do it and you've prepared yourself enough, you've equipped yourself enough for it, go for it. Most times what I've realized is that our leaders up there, they also want to get the best of the youths, to work with. But if you're not out there, if they don't know about you, then you can't blame them really for not, picking you. You could be the best, but then if you're just hidden somewhere and they don't get to hear about you, then it's a problem. So do the work. Get an education, be passionate about something, do a lot of networking and community service. Let people know that this is what you're really good at. Mm-hmm. Go for conferences, seminars, put your work out there, let people know about you. I think just by doing that alone, word of mouth, oh, this guy is good at this, it will take you a step up.